Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast, the only podcast for dance studio owners, where each week we bring you business growth strategies to help you increase your profits, impact the lives of more students, while ensuring you get back some time to have a little life outside of the studio. It's time for you to become the go-to studio in your area. Now, here's your host, founder of the Dance Studio Owners Association, Clint Salter.
Hey there, dance studio owners. Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast. It's Clint here, and I'm super excited that you're joining us for today's episode. Now, today's guest is joining me to talk about one of our favorite topics when it comes to running a successful studio that really thrives and impacts hundreds, thousands of students in your local area, and that is leadership. Our guest is Dr. Jeff Thompson, and he's the author of Lead True, Live Your Values, Build Your People, Inspire Your Community, and has an absolute passion for values-based leadership. Jeff, I'm excited that you're here. This is a topic that we love talking about with our studio owners, so thanks so much for joining us.
Well, Clint, thanks for inviting me. I'm very excited about doing this as well. Was not only the CEO of a health system, but I've been a pediatrician for 35 years. And so I'm very interested in working with people that are helping to develop others and especially developing young people in our society. So this is an important work. And so I'm happy to be a part of it.
Awesome. So let's start with value-based leadership. I know you're an advocate for it. So could you kind of start off, Jeff, by telling us, how do our studio owners clearly define what their actual values are?
Yeah, I think that's very important. I think we all have many examples. Some pull them from our faith community, some from family, some from businesses. There are, of course, many businesses that put them on their webpage, write them on their walls, put them on their literature. The problem is following them. A lot of people write them. Fewer people actually follow their values. So as you start building your value set, this is a time to take some time and be very thoughtful about what is really most important. What is the core principles around which you're going to build your way forward in your organization? What are you going to be remembered for? So I think sampling from the world around you is important, but then taking a little extra time to be very introspective about what in 10 years will have residual staying power for your organization is very important. So that's kind of where I'd start.
And so with our values, we have personal values. We also have values that we have inside of our dance studio, and often they are a combination. They kind of intertwine. Once we have our personal values, how would you suggest that we integrate that into our business? Should we be having conversations with our team members around, what they think our business stands for? How do we kind of get everyone on the same page?
I think that is important. And many of you have tried doing this and have worked, whether you have 5 employees, 50 or 500. It is not the easiest to have everyone going in the same direction. I think the important thing is to not be bashful about your values. Not say, oh, well, if someone's a little concerned, maybe they think a little different, maybe I won't be able to hire anybody. We were very clear about our values. We wrote them down. We put them on the walls in the building. We put them on all of our literature. If you came to interview for a job, we said, here's our values. Here's how we're going to live. This is an important thing to us. And we had lots of employees. So we had in our community of 55,000, every year we had 25,000 job applications.
Wow.
So being firm with your values is not a problem. In fact, it is much more efficient to be firm with your values and say, this is what we're about. You will attract people who also believe in those values.
No, it makes a lot of sense. You talked earlier about, values aren't something you put on the wall and forget about. It's something you live by. It's something you refer back to. I think having clarity around your values helps you make nearly every single decision that you need to make inside of your business. What are some tips on helping our studio owners to ensure that they're always kind of coming back to their values and that they're not forgotten about and put in like a bottom of a drawer?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to understand that if you have employees, you are not going to be next to them all the time. On the phone, in the studio, if you have multiple sites, you cannot be everywhere all the time. So to take what you are trying to build, whether you're leading a department or owning an organization, to try and take that forward, clarity is important. So we would start with writing down the strategic plan of the organization and saying, here's where we're going. Here's what we value. And for us in healthcare, we decided we needed to stop just taking care of sick people. We need to move out into the community and improve the health and well-being of patients and the whole community. So we just made that. This is our purpose. So if you want to come work here, this is what your purpose is going to be. Then we set a goal. Where are we going to get to? We're going to be so good. We're going to be nationally recognized for the care we deliver to our community. So that's where our vision and our mission and our vision, our purpose, why we're going, how far we're going to get. And then we said, here's the how. The how we're going to get there. The how we're going to get there is going to be our value statement. This is how you'll treat everybody. This is how I will treat you. So this is very important for owners and senior leaders in an organization. You have to model it. You have to believe it. It has to be a part of your everyday language. So in the job application, in the job interview, in the evaluations, in the ongoing conversations, in your notes you put out to the staff, in how you interact with the community, every one of those times is an opportunity for you to state and then act on your values.
I love it. I love it. And it's super important. When we're having, we have team members. I know one of the things that you talk about is evaluating staff and offering feedback. And this can be a huge challenge for our studio owners. Maybe it's with a teacher, maybe it's with an office manager. What are some effective ways to, deal with giving feedback? And I think so often we tend to hold it in. And then when we deliver it, we're pretty angry and frustrated. So how can we go about delivering feedback to our staff members in a way that is impactful, that helps them, but also helps us as the leader?
I believe that one of the most important pieces to have your staff believe you really care about them is to fundamentally commit to being more interested in their success than holding them accountable. You'll read in some leadership books about, it's a great leader, he held his staff accountable to do this or that. But if you think holding accountable is just looking backwards, right? It's just grading people on how they did. And we have to do some of that. We have to make sure we're accomplishing things. But if you, as a leader, or the managers that you are responsible for, if those people are more about building staff, improving the staff's success, than they are holding accountable, you have to have a balance. You have to have a balance. But holding accountable is just looking backwards. Being responsible for your employees' success is looking forward. And the staff will start to feel that. So then when you have to work on things and saying, well, we weren't hitting this right or that right, it will be in the context of a consistent set of values and a feeling that you're actually there to improve their chances of success rather than checking off a box and see whether you're going to throw them out the door or not. So you start building not only a mindset, but a feeling among the staff that you're really there for their health and well-being. And then they're more likely to stay. Most importantly, they're more likely to do things when you're not around that are consistent with the values.
So good. I love that. That is so powerful. We could just switch off right now, Jeff. That you've given so much valuable information already. What are some common mistakes that you see leaders making when they're wanting to grow their business and grow their team? You know, maybe some of the habits that aren't really serving them or their team members.
Right. So I think one of the fundamental pieces that we get wrong, not infrequently, is in fact believing that growth is the goal. Now we all have some growth goals. I'm not saying we should never have it as a goal, but have it as a prime goal will be a problem. So if you get big, but you can't manage it, you can't hire good staff, and you deliver a crappy service, you're not going to last. If you don't deliver an environment to the people that are being instructed or the instructors that is sound, solid, and adds value, you won't last. So you can't get so enamored with growth that you don't understand what it takes to get there and what's to maintain it. So the fundamental piece is, how does it fit in your overall strategy, and what does it take to do long-term solid growth versus just growth to get some numbers up? I think another mistake is with some success, we often get overconfident. We get overconfident that what worked in this place or that place is going to work in another place. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So overconfidence is a big issue. Now, the antidote to that is genuine listening. So when you start thinking about moving into another area or expanding different programs, asking questions of your staff, of your managers, of families, of the participants themselves, of other people in the community, and really listen to what they have to say. Because your preconceived notion of what they need might not be right. Now, it might be right. You might be onto something really great. I'm not saying never launch into new areas. We had many areas, as the readers that have read the book have seen. We launched into areas that healthcare had never done before. But you have to be courageous to do an innovation like this. To do growth takes several things. First, it takes some courage to listen and modify, and courage to look at options that you haven't considered. It takes discipline, because once you head down a road, you have to stay on your plan and not go chasing off at every shiny object that might be around, or a little bit of growth here, a little bit of growth there, but it gets you spread out beyond what your core capabilities are. There's a great story in the book about Judy Faulkner, a woman who built from a 1.5 person computer programming company in the basement of an apartment building to now a multi-billion-dollar, the largest electronic health record company in the United States. She built this by staying focused on what they could do really, really well. So I think those things are important: the listening, the focusing, and I think making sure. And it's one of the things that I talk about when I talk about innovation, and growth and innovation come together. It's the courage, it's the discipline, and it's the durability to stay with it when you have some ups and downs. That doesn't mean ride a bad idea into the ground, have it crush your organization. But it means some things don't happen overnight. We read about things that people. I saw a great quote. I'm trying to think who is it from. No, but they're interviewing a musician, and the interviewer mistakenly called her an overnight success, and she said, Yes, it was overnight, as long as you don't count the 20 years that I was working in coffee shops, putting out records that nobody listened to, writing, rewriting, redoing it. Sure, an overnight success, except for the 20 years of work. So don't try and think you can do it overnight. Those stories once in a while happen. Most of the time, it's a long-term thinking, disciplined approach.
Mm. You talked about focus. One of the things, Jeff, that our studio owners often share with us inside the association is the fact that they're overwhelmed a lot. So that's one thing I'd love to ask you about is how do we get ourselves out of overwhelm? And the second piece of that is, how do we get focused? And, sometimes when we're staying in our lane and we are staying focused, we can get a little bit bored as entrepreneurs. So how do we then find the innovation in the day-to-day to keep growing something that wasn't as exciting as it once was?
Yes, well, those are kind of all mixed together, and it is important. It's important for you as an owner and for your staff. So one way, I'm gonna come back to being clear on what your goals are and what you want to accomplish. If you set your goals on we're gonna make a 3% margin next year, and we're all gonna get $1.87 for a Christmas bonus. Mm-hmm. There you go. That's exciting. But if you set your goals on we're going to change the lives of 1,000 children this year, we're going to change the lives of 1,000 children. Well, if I'm applying for a job at this place, I get excited about that. Would I like the $1.87 for Christmas? Sure. But 1,000 children's lives, that's a big deal. For the first thing, set big goals. Don't set small goals. Set big goals that'll stretch people, and have them outwardly looking, not just inwardly looking. Not just say we're going to grow by 2% and we're going to end up with a 1% margin so that we can share some money. That's fine. And you can have those somewhere, but set big goals. Set the 1,000 children's lives goals, and that will get your people going. And if you have a clear set of values, you have this inspirational goal out there, then your people can provide a lot of the energy to do things. You don't have to do it all by yourself. Frontline people, the people that manage the phones and the desks, if you unleash them, we for example, the hospital, we decreased our food waste. Sounds pretty dull thing, right? 80%. 80%. Wow. We bought a little bitty scale. We had a short session with these people that had never finished high school. They're working in dietary. They figured out how to drop food waste 80%. Food went to the Salvation Army. We saved money. They got their picture in the paper, and we did all these things. It was all about them saying, this is not right. This is not good for the health and well-being of the community. I'm going to tell you another story. A Friday night, all the senior leaders, me as the CEO, the senior leaders are gone. Friday, late afternoon, a physician came into the administrative area, looked around, and a vice president stood up and said, "Can I help you?" He said, "No, you can't." He says, No, I can help you." He says, "No, I'm looking for my vice president." He says, "Well, I'm a vice president. My job is to serve." And he says, "Well, you won't be able to do this because I just had a patient the Friday afternoon. I asked the patient what he want for his therapy, the chemo, the radiation, whatever. And he said he wanted to get married. I said, I'm a doctor. I don't do marriages. He says, that's what I really want. You ask me what I really want, that's what I really want. But because that doctor had been trained to listen what the patient really wanted, and that administrator had been trained to serve, not follow some set of rules, in the matter of 2 hours, they got a license. They got a wedding license. They went to her house and found her the wedding dress of this patient. They were engaged. The patient's fiance. They took all the flowers out of the visiting coffee shop. They got the kitchen to bake a cake. They had 50 people at a wedding in 2.5 hours. They never asked permission. They never called me up and said, Jeff, is it okay if we have this giant wedding in the courtyard? They just said, this is the right thing. This is consistent with our values. Now, I'm not saying you need to have weddings at the dance studios, but while the dance studios are lovely enough, you certainly could.
Yeah.
And you'd have people dancing, so that'd be a good thing. But my point was the staff did the right thing because they knew what the goals of the organization were and they knew what the values were. And so they didn't have to call me and they didn't have to call the senior vice president. They just said, this is what's right and this is what we're going to do. So that story then told around the organization was another inspirational story. You say, how do you get people to follow this and how do you connect with them? You take that story, you raise it up, not as these people didn't follow the rules. You raise it up and say, this is what we're talking about. This is taking care of people. Of course, it wasn't connected to the rules, but it was connected to our values. And that's what won the day. And it made the whole organization proud. And so we had many more instances of people just rising up, doing the right thing, changing things to make the place better.
I love it. I love it. So much gold in this from so many perspectives in terms of the customer service piece, the staff piece, knowing, living, breathing the values. This is awesome. Jeff, I know that we're running out of time. I'd love to wrap up. You know, you've worked with many amazing businesses, business owners, leaders. You know, what are your top 3 tips for our studio owners on really growing and creating their dream studio, like their empire that they want to create with their studio? What do you think? What are the patterns that you've seen with successful business owners that you've studied that can give them some inspiration and help them get there?
So my 3 are first to set inspirational goals. You want to hire people who want to work for inspirational goals. Of course, we need paychecks and benefits and all those things. I understand that. But if you want the best, if you want to compete for the best instructors, the best office people, the best marketers, set inspirational goals, big goals that will excite them and challenge them. The next thing, of course, is to live those values. You, as a leader, have to be clear what they are, and you, as the leader, have to live those values all the time. And sometime you might have a fabulous dancer who's now an instructor, but if he or she doesn't live those values, then they cannot stay in the organization. You can try and fix them, but if they won't be fixed, you have to be disciplined enough. You have the courage to set the values and the discipline to follow through on that. And finally, when you work with your staff, go beyond just holding them accountable. Go beyond the HR rules. In the book, Chapter 5 talks about treating staff with reverence. This doesn't mean I didn't set goals. Doesn't mean it wasn't a hard place to work. People here work very hard. It's very hard. Firm values. But treat them with reverence. Treat them the way you treat your family. Expect big things, but understand that they're going to feel, they're going to know, they're going to make decisions based on how you treat them. You can't expect them to treat the dancers and their families any different than you're treating them. Those would be the big 3.
Love it. Jeff, what a great conversation. I could talk to you for a very, very long time. I want to thank you for your time. And Jeff, can you let us know where can we go to find out more about you and your organization? Also to pick up a copy of the book. Everyone, you need to go and grab it, lead true, live your values, build your people, inspire your community. Where can we find out more, Jeff?
My website has information about the book. It has a free chapter that you can download and read and see if it's something you might be interested in. It is the website is JeffThompsonMD.com. So JeffThompsonMD, JeffThompsonMD.com. And there'll be other things that I wrote about leadership and building your teams, HR issues, those kinds of things. There's a lot you can just download and read right from the site.
Awesome. And we'll make sure we put that link in the show notes as well. Jeff, thank you again for your time. Absolute pleasure speaking with you today. You've given so many pieces of wisdom that I know are going to empower our studio owners to go and be the best version of themselves. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the work that your studio owners do. I think dance and sports and music are so important in the development of our children, and so the work they're doing is important, and I wish them the best.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Hopefully we'll get to connect with you again.
That'd be great.
Thank you for joining us today. For all the resource links from the show and to receive access to our free dance studio growth training, make sure you visit transformmydancestudio.com.